Chaim with a story. I heard this story first from my father, Allah Shalom, many years ago. He heard it from the person himself. Then I read it in an autobiography that he wrote. I saw the story there also. It's a very deep story. There was a Jew in Israel. He was known as Zalman Shazar. Zalman Shazar was the third president of Israel. The first one was Chaim Weizmann. The second one was Yitzchak ben Tzvi. And I believe the third one was Zalman Shazar. He became a president in 1963, and he was a president for 10 years, till 1973. He was a real left-wing Jew, a scholar, a speaker, a poet, socialist, left-wing. He was the first education minister in Israel, secular Jew. His real name wasn't Shazar. His real name was Rubashov. And he came from the Lita, he came from Lithuania, from a little town called Demir. Today it became very famous because the Mir Yeshiva came from there. The Mir Yeshiva, the city is not called Mir, the city is called Demir. The Mir Yeshiva is not the Mir Yeshiva, it's Demir. The name of the yeshiva is Demir, right? It's not the Mir, just for Jewish virtual, Jewish, what is it called? Jewish information, yeah. So he came, his family came from that town. He was named after the Balatanya. Shneur Zalman, he was named to the Balatanya because his Zayda was a Chabad Chassid. His Elter Zayda was a Talmud of the Balatanya. So they named him for this Balatanya. But this was the generation, early 1900s, late 1800s, where most Russian, Lithuanian Jewry left Yiddishkeit. People don't realize, but 50-60% left Yiddishkeit, including him, he himself. And he became a socialist Zionist, which was very compelling then. I mean, hundreds of thousands of Jewish youths were allured into the visions of this grand utopia that will transform the world and turn it into a paradise. Karl Marx's socialism and Theodor Herzl's secular Zionism and the combination of both. And this swept through Eastern Europe. And now is not the time to elaborate on the history, but it allured, it brought in, it spoke to millions of Jewish youth, because many of them didn't see a future within Judaism and the Blood Gemara. For them, this was just a perpetuation of 2,000 years of persecution, and they were looking for new isms. Every day there was a new ism. That's right. Zalman Shazar was 15 years old. So later he changed his name from Rubashov to Shazar, because Rubashov doesn't sound Israeli, it's not Sabra. It's a European, Eastern European name, Rubashov. Yiddish name, Rubashov. Shazar is more Zionist sounding, and Shazar is an acronym of Shneur Zalman Rubashov, Shazar. So it's called Zalman Shazar, that's how he's known. He was going up to Eretz Yisrael, it was then called Palestine. In the early 1900s, this is, he was born probably 1890, so he was around 15 years old. This is right before the First World War, or I think shortly before the First World War. He was a young teenager. He was making aliyah. He would be from the chalutzim. You know what the chalutzim are, yeah? The workers to build the land. And he really integrated, and he became the first education minister and then the president of Israel. And he was very well known in his day. The last Shabbos before leaving to Palestine, to Eretz Yisrael, he decided he was going to go visit his Zayda. His Zayda was a Chassidish Yid. Zayda was a Chabad Chassid living in the Mir. And like a very, a Fatzaitish Yid, a real Erlich, fine Yirish Shamayim. And he decided one Shabbos, simply out of respect to the Zayda, he's going to be with him, and he's going to follow that Shabbos, he's going to be with the Zayda completely. Now, despite his personal persuasion, he's going to be there fully. His grandfather was excited to see him, obviously, and he put on his yarmulke, and he went in, out of Shabbos. So he describes this. My father told it to me when I was a kid. I think he heard it from Zalman Shazar. He went to the mikveh with the Zayda before Shabbos, and they went to shul early, and they sang Shir Hashirim together. And he said his Zayda learned with him Likutei Torah from the Balatanya, and then they got ready for Kabbalah Shabbos, and they davened. He said it was so beautiful, the old shtetl, simple Jews. Most Jews over there were elder. They were singing Lechadoidi. And they went home. He says at the table there was nothing but nigunim and divrei Torah of a Zayda, and then Shabbos morning they woke up early and they learned. So they went to the mikveh again, and they went to shul, and he learned with him again Likutei Torah from the Balatanya, and they davened, and the whole Shabbos, it was just a Shabbos in a very, very observant niche, in a cocoon in the mir, and Mitchal Shudus, and the whole Shabbos they fabreng together and spoke. And his Zayda loved the fact that the Einikel was there. His Zayda was a Talmud Chacham. Mitzvah Shabbos, Malava Malka, Sunday morning Shachris, Pas Shachris, breakfast, and then he was taking there were no trains in the Mir, but there was a place where the Balagolis were, the coaches. And you rented a coach, and he took you to a nearby larger city where there was a train station. He would take a train, ultimately would bring him to Turkey, and from Turkey he would get to Eretz Yisrael. So after breakfast, Sunday morning, the Zayda took him with his chamadan, with his suitcase to the Balei Agolas, to the coaches over there in the Mir. Over there, the Zayda told him, Azai, before he left, he said, we didn't speak about this a whole Shabbos, but now you're leaving. And I know that you're going your own way. I want to tell you something. I want to tell you a tradition that I have. And I never heard this before. This I heard through my father, through Zalman Shazar, that he heard from his Zayd. We have a Messiah. There are three types of songs in life. There's a niggin that you hear it, and you like it, but you forget it. You forget it, and that's it. There's another niggin, you hear it, and you like it, but it doesn't stop playing in your head, like a mosquito buzzing, you know? You hear a niggin, like the CD plays over and over and over again, and it drives you crazy. You want to get it out of your head, it comes back. So both of those nigunim are not connected to your neshama. The first one you forgot, the second one is driving you crazy. The third niggin, you hear it, it becomes ingrained in you, and it doesn't drive you crazy. It's not always playing, but whenever you need it, you remember it, and you could sing it, and it's available. That's the niggin that's connected to your shayrish neshama. Your soul is rooted in that niggin. And then he said to him, by us it's a Messiah, that chassidei Chabad, their neshama is rooted in the Alter Rebbe's niggin. The niggin of the Dalet Babas. You know the niggin. Ya 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 ya. So he said, we have a tradition that Chabad's Chassidim's neshama is rooted in the Alter Rebbe's niggin. But mainly he said, Shnei Zalman, and you're named after him. So I want you to know, you're going to go through life. You're going to go through life. At different stages of your life, if you see that you forgot this niggin, it means you're disconnected from yourself, from your roots, because your soul's roots are this niggin. So if you forget this niggin, it means you're disconnected from your roots. Don't forget this niggin. That's what he told him. And then he said, it says, Al yipoter adam mechaveri ele metoch dvar halacha. The Gemara says in Brachas. So let me tell you halacha. He told him over a Rambam in Hilchas Trumas about Eretz Yisrael. He asked him a contradiction to another Rambam. Tried to answer the question, find the halacha. He gave him a kiss on his forehead, and he told him goodbye. He was a Jew in his 80s. So Alman Shazar said he came to Eretz Yisrael, and a few months later he got a telegram from home that the Zayda passed away, very shortly after. So he continues the story, and he said those words stayed with me. He was completely not connected to Yiddishkeit. But he said at every major juncture in my life, whenever there was a fork in my life, he says, Ad hayoym hazeh, as the secular president of a secular state, a Jewish state, but secular, when I have to make a serious decision, I have two ways to go in life, and I'm not sure which is right. I ask everybody to leave the room, I close the door, and I sing the Alter Rebbe's niggin. If the niggin comes to me, I feel good and wholesome. And if the niggin doesn't come to me, then I know I have to stop everything and make a cheshbon hanefesh and go back all the way to the source. See what's happening in my shayrish. And this niggin has escorted me ad hayoym hazeh. This is what Zalman Shazar said. In the later years, even though he was much older than him, he started to come to the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Brooklyn. He came quite a few times as president. And he became much, the Rebbe brought him very, very close to Yiddishkeit. Much, much closer. A little while before he died, he came here to New York, and it was Yud Beis Tammuz. Yud Beis Tammuz is a big Yom Tov in Lubavitch because it's the Chag HaGeula of the Rebbe Rayatz, who was arrested by Stalin and sentenced to death, and he was saved. So it's a big day. So Zalman Shazar, who came from Russia, he knew the matzav there, what they went through, what Jews and Chassidim went through in Russia. He came to the Fabrengen in Yud Beis Tammuz. I saw the video of this, and I heard this from people, but nobody knew the reason, because I read about this years later, and I don't know if this was bekavana or not bekavana. At the end of the Fabrengen, the Rebbe said they should sing the Alter Rebbe's niggun. Good, which they used to sing at different occasions. At the end of the, when it came to the high part, before they started, there was a menagin, Rabbi Yoel Khan, he would start the nigunim. So the Rebbe went like this, that they should sing the climax Alter Rebbe's niggun 10 times. Which goes and goes, you know which part? Yeah, 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 yeah. Now this is a niggun the Balatanya made. It has 4 stanzas, and it's mechuven keneged the Daled Oilamus. It starts with Asiya, then you go to Yitzira, then you go to Bria, and then this stanza is Atzilus, the high. And then they come back and unite. It's a very, it's called a niggun mechuven. It's a very, it's considered his niggun. Even though he made a lot of niggunim, like Avinu Malkeinu and Kol Doidi and many other niggunim. But so they sang the niggun 10 times, the high part. And Shazar was sitting there. So I was a baby, so I can't tell you I remember, but I saw, they have a video of it, so I saw it. And I saw that he was sitting, and he was completely like in a trance. He was like completely transformed. Now the Olam just thought, he came from Israel, it's like a shmaka niggun, thousands of people were singing it. I don't know if there was anyone in the crowd who understood the meaning of that story. Here was a man, he was already in his 80s, shortly before his death. He ran away to the other extreme from Judaism and certainly chassidus. And at the end of his life, he's sitting by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who was an Einikel of the Alter Rebbe. His name is Shnei Zalman, surrounded by chassidim in New York, and they're singing the Alter Rebbe's niggun. It was an incredible moment. The Rebbe was singing, he was singing, the Olam was singing, and it represented, this powerful chosem, the stamp, the seal that sits in the subconscious of a person's soul. And you can go here, you can go there, you can go there. But when you have a pnimiyisdik approach, so then the connection is never lost, and it remains for eternity. The same is true in every person's own life. You have to know. You go here, you go there. Medreitzach. People get lost. People get overwhelmed. But the chosem never goes away. The diyukin, the chosem is maybe not here, but the diyukin of the chosem is imprinted in your heart forever. Okay.